Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. My pranams, salutations to the chair, Dr. Satyadev. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Now,
Yes, sir.
now yes, now yes.
Couldn't you hear anything that I spoke?
No.
Oh, my God.
Only prayer.
And prayer, only prayer. Okay, okay. So my salutations to the principal, Dr. Satyadev Singh ji of DAV PG College, Varanasi, and Mr. Ajit Kumar Singh ji, Secretary DAV PG College. My pranams to my friend, Mr. Dr. Indrajit Mishra ji, and of course, Sanyojak, convener, Mahima Singh ji, who lovingly invited me, and I have been your guest some time back also, when you invited me to speak on Shiksha versus education. Years back. So thank you very much, and my namaskar to all the learned friends who are connected here to discuss this very subject of seminal significance, civilizational, ethical, dharmic significance. It is related to our quotidian, mundane existence as we sit here, see each other, and do our own business. We are affected by the very theme of this project, of this event. So we are going to discuss for 2 days various aspects of the corona, the pre-corona, the post-corona, and the in-between position of corona and the civilizational issues which are related to this corona pandemic, and how it affects the very aesthetics, the very process of creativity. You know, that is also a very important theme which is interwoven in your theme note. Now, since it's a keynote, it's a Bij Vaktavya, I will be just scattering certain things here and there without necessarily connecting them, because I will try to give you certain ideas, provoke you to think afresh and discuss those things. Maybe certain things you may not like, but these are that I have to say in the present context. So, as I started with that prayer, Purnamada Purnamidam, our discourse, our civilizational point of view, our darshana, our means the Indic darshana, the Sanatan Dharmic darshana is that of whole. Can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me? So this is the holistic view. This is the view that India offers to the world.
All the participants, please mute all the participants except this.
It is not rupture oriented, let me say. It is rapture oriented. Instead of being rupture oriented, where you will see only ruptures here, ruptures there, and ruptures everywhere. Remember, yukta ahara viharasya yukta cheshtu karmas. If your ahara, vihara, vyavhara, if full of ruptures everywhere, and at every epidemic you see a rupture, then you will go on addressing those ruptures in a very superficial sense without getting to the heart of the matter. That is the whole. India has given to the world the poetics of the whole. Therefore, Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Lachyate. If you take out the whole from the whole will remain. Therefore, Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. It is from the whole that the whole emerges. Remember, so this is the takeoff point that I want to say, that our is the aesthetics of joy, our is the aesthetics of rasa. Our creativity engenders the mood and the sentiment and a kind of emotion of rasa. And this rasa is very crucial to enable us to exist as good humans, as ethically oriented human beings, as human beings who have attained a kind of equanimity of mind as well as a kind of equilibrium between our secular concerns and the sacred concerns. The sacred secular binary doesn't bother us, because everything is purna. everything is part of the whole, and therefore everything is the whole. Remember. So again, as I said, that we have not yet evolved any mechanism to assess the damage and destruction caused by corona, or
Sir's voice is mute now. Please unmute.
can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, now we can hear.
So we, being very modest, I would say, I would focus on sahitya, I would focus on creativity, I would focus on creative representations, art, aesthetics, and how corona, how these kinds of phenomena, whenever they happened in the world, how they affected the creative minds, and how they affected the very poetics, the very science, and the very study of literary or representational arts. So this will be my focus, and I will start with by saying that in our very first literary text, हमारी first काव्य कृति, that is the Ramayana, and the Ramayana starts off, the first Anushtup actually starts off on a note of Vishad, on a note of Karuna, when this cosmic rhythm was violated. Now, cosmic rhythm has already been violated by Ebola, by the Mad-Cow syndrome, by corona, and maybe as Spanish flu happened in 1918, so 100 years after we have corona, Spanish flu decimated at least 2 crore or 3 crore human beings, 100 years ago. So what will happen after corona, we don't know, but it's going to take a very heavy toll, remember. So my point is, there is Vishad, and there is Vishad, then there has to be Karuna. There has to be Karuna. And what is the business of a writer, of a creative artist? That the creative artist, through the alembic of his or her creative imagination, will convert, because he or she is inspired, touched, as our Adikavi Valmiki was touched when he saw that one of the geese was killed with an arrow by a hunter, and therefore, not very far from Varanasi, on the banks of the Tamasa river, the first creative verse, and that first creative verse highlights, or you can say it foregrounds, the creative significance, the significance of the violation of rhythm, which lies at the core of our Indian view of life, or Indic view of life, Sanatana Dharmi Drishti of life. So, Ma nishad pratishtham tvam gamah shwashati samah yat kronch mithnat ekam vadhi kam mohatam. Ma nishad pratishtham tvam gamah shwashati samah. So you will never attain that peace of mind, because you have violated that cosmic order, that rhythm. And remember that what you violated love. You violated love. A pair of birds making love, they were in love. So it is the violation of non-violence. It is the violation of love through brutality. Therefore, that is the cause of the first chanda. Let me tell you, even the term Sanskriti, because I have certain problems. I have written so much on this term culture, that the Western term culture doesn't do justice to your own notion, Indic notion of Sanskriti. Remember, if you go to, there's no such time to discuss the whole journey, etymological as well as epistemological journey of the term culture, up to Raymond Williams and up to Derrida, you were quoting, and Foucault. But let me tell you, it proceeds through ruptures. You are very much right when you wrote that theme paper. You could only see ruptures here, ruptures there, ruptures in poetry, ruptures in genre, ruptures in literature. I saw it was a kind of typographical error, because you, based in the Baba Vishwanath's city of Varanasi, could have seen raptures, because if there is vibhatsa, even when there is bhayanaka, through, as I said, that create that pratibha, that navonmesha salini pratibha, that exemplastic imagination, that human potential of creating new wholes out of fragments, that would have transformed that sorrow and sadness into the form of poetry or art. That something which was initiated by Adikavi Valmiki. So this term Sanskriti is different from culture. Remember, the journey of culture, agriculture, and the mechanical culture, and the material culture, and lo and behold, that culture was also a biological term, because the culture of bacteria. So its instrumentality is very mechanical, and it's very material. It's very commodified term. Later on, it takes on some positive meanings. And when in 19th century, it was used to refer to certain refinements, tastes, etc., etc. Then it became institutionalized. Remember, Raymond Williams says so brilliantly and beautifully in keywords. And if you read his Culture and Society, it was only in 1960s that the West, even the new Marxist left could discover that culture means what? The harmonious existence of the material, the intellectual, and the spiritual. Now my point is, where is the spiritual in the Marxist view of culture? It is this suppression, repression of the spiritual and the varchasva, the hegemony of the material and the intellectual. That marks the discursive trajectory of entire Marxist or Marxist epistemology on culture. Therefore, culture has been a kind of discursive vitanda, and everything is culture. So you have popular culture, you have gay culture, you have LGBT culture, everything is culture. So they have let go of the hold on Sanskriti. That is our term. Sanskriti, sanskar, and dharma, they can't be separated. Now, the first reference to Sanskriti comes, now remember the Shruti tradition. Now, in Aitareya Brahmana, there is a categorical reference to Sanskriti, the term, with reference to aesthetics. That is, an artist has got to see the chandas, Aitareya Brahmana, the chandas of the chandas means the interconnectedness of the disparate objects, disparate phenomena, and he has to create this chandas, that is the rhythm, that is the connectedness through her or his shilpa, and therefore an artist has to have Atma Sanskriti. Now, this was the first time when art and aesthetics were conjoined with Sanskriti. And remember, in Yajurveda, you have Sa Prathama Sanskriti Vishwavara. This is Yajurveda. First time Sanskriti was being used in a global context. That Sanskriti cannot be Indian Sanskriti or American Sanskriti, American culture. There has to be a discourse of Sanskriti where Sanskriti is based on certain shareable values. And that can only be that Sanskriti which is adoptable, which is to be followed by the people, if we are to make this whole planetary existence a kind of ethically driven existence. So our notion of Sanskriti was based on kriyatmakta, that is the dynamicity of kriya. And this kriya should be related to some kind of refinement. So these two things can't be altered. That all your actions are related to some kind of self-purification, some purification. So this sanitization of self is the precondition that India offers to the world. The moment we deviate from that kind of sanitization process, that kri, that sum plus kri, and the kri does not make it static either. So I was also intrigued by the term that now maximum amount of thinking is taking place and on the implications of corona. It is not stasis. It is not a sign of stasis, because stasis presupposes a kind of stagnation, a kind of stoppage. Sta, the root is sta, and the sta means that stharya, avaruddhata, tandra. No, that is not the situation. The fact that we are here cogitating on how to cope up with corona and its implications with special reference to creativity and aesthetics makes it non-static. That is why I say that kriyatmakta, that shakti is always there in our conception of Sanskriti. Kriyatmak shakti. That's why Sanskriti has got to be dynamic. When it may remain latent or dormant for some time, but it cannot be destroyed. It cannot be held back for long. Remember. So that is the Saraswata Pravaha of your Sanskriti. That Saraswati may have dried up, but the bed is there. The perennial cornucopia of creative imagination remains. The whole intellectual creative tradition of India. So Sanskriti is not a static term. And remember, what upholds this Sanskriti is dharma. Only one word is dharma. The moment you deviate from dharma, righteousness, there are 62 main implications of the term dharma in Rig Veda itself, and dharma is such a loaded term that it is, when Amartya Sen dealt with the term, he was appalled to see that this dharma means duty, dharma also means right, dharma also means justice, and dharma also means nyaya, dharma also means policy. So one word, that is dharma, and dharma upholds the essence, morality, the entire constitutionality of anything, the essence of anything, any idea, any entity, lies with its dharma. So dharma is that essence, and it is this dharma or dharmic, that upholds this human existence, our planetary existence. Because the term Prithvi itself rests on dharma. The moment Prithvi, the earth, our earth consciousness, now our earth consciousness, the term Prithvi, remember, the term Prithvi is embedded in our ethical earth consciousness. Please read Atharveda's Bhumi Sukta, Prithvi Sukta, or the story of Prithu in Shri Madhbhagavat. Remember, there is a compact and contract between the humans to protect and preserve. Protect and preserve the that is the non-human and the human, will coexist and they will grow together. Not that the non-humans or the non-living may exist for the consumption for this predatory anthropocentric culture. Therefore, in environmental criticism, there's a lot of talk of Anthropocene. Don't forget Amitabh Ghosh's very important book, the Great Derangement, where he analyzes climate change and the unthinkable. Now, remember, in the same, it was published in 2006, and remember this kind of being adharmic, adopting a mode of life which is based on immorality, greed, remember, oppression, exploitation, colonization, or new imperialism, or whatever. This will result into some kind of perversity or some kind of manifestation of any pandemic or the other. It is already there. It is being discussed in the Western texts also, or in the environmental scale. But what is the source? As I said, that in Indian tradition, we do not separate the Lokadharmi aesthetics and the Lokasangrahi darshana. Our darshan is Lokasangrahi. It is oriented to the people's welfare. And when I say welfare of the people, that is welfare of all. Sarve bhavantu sukhana. Sarve does not mean it being anthropo. Therefore, Anthropocene being Anthropocene is the burden of their their philosophical imagination, because they destroyed nature through the conquest of nature discourses. All discourses of progress were grounded into their triumph of nature, and therefore, when nature was conquered, now they said that, well, enough. This is the moment. So from Renaissance onward, Enlightenment up to the industrial age, and in the post-industrial age, this predominantly, commodified consumerist culture, remember, this became a kind of Frankenstein's monster. This scientism and economic giantism, including the modern day techno-giantism, remember, results into such certain kinds of aberrations. These aberrations are not only biological. They say that no one knows as to how this coronavirus emerged. The total weight of coronavirus or viruses, if we presume that there are billions and billions of viruses, is 10 gram, my dear, 10 gram. But this unmanifest, unseeable 10 gram, which is scattered all around us on the globe, is the cause of all this mayhem and all this kind of deep and great anxieties. Now, once a vaccine, again, as I say, I would come to this, that you are creating, opening up new frontiers of avidya or worldly knowledge, or a kind of techno-scientific rationality, then you will have momentary triumph or victory over this virus through vaccine. But what will happen 100 years hence? There will be yet another pandemic. So we are not going under the skin of this. We are not addressing the root of it. And our rishis, they were wise enough to have alerted us to the dangers of vidya as well as avidya. Now, in that very short Upanishad, Isha Vashopanishad, remember what does the rishi say? The rishi says, the rishi warns us. They warns us that vidya and avidya, they both are to be pursued together. Remember, vidya is that knowledge that takes you towards liberation, emancipation, social, political, economic, as well as spiritual. But avidya is that worldly knowledge, that knowledge of the practical world of affairs. Now, we have to pursue both vidya and avidya together, because if we are lost, if we remain obsessed with only spiritual knowledge, we enter greater darkness, andham tamas pravishanti, greater darkness than those who are pursuing the instrumental scientific knowledge. That is avidya. So remember, the criticizes all those spiritual practitioners who only practice spirituality and they remain aloof from the worldly concerns. Remember, and it says that they will enter greater darkness, greater tamas, and it also criticizes those scientists or those people who are only trying in the present circumstances to control the corona-like pandemic through scientific modernity. So, because but they say that they are more culpable who only want a kind of spirituality to evolve all the answers, to produce all the answers to this pandemic. What is the way out then? Then the way out is suggested in the 11th mantra by the Rishi. And the Rishi says that for the proper path, to understand the proper path, you have to have a balance, an equilibrium between vidya and avidya. So the simultaneous pursuit of science and spirituality, will give you the clue how to control or how to make this world a better world to live in. A world which is based on, as they say, giving, caring, and sharing. Now, remember how these situations of Vishada, as I said, our rasa theory believes in purushartha, that dharma, artha, kama, moksha, our aesthetics, our literary creations, artistic creations should help us attain these four cardinal values, and the highest being dharma. If you take another text, that is the Tirukural by Tiruvalluvar, it also highlights the significance of dharma, artha, and kama. It does not shun artha and kama. If you take another example of another master text in the Southern Dravidian tradition, and that is Tolkappiyam by Tolkappia, who was a disciple of Saint August, who Agastya Muni went from from Vindhya Pradesh to south, stayed in Madurai, and remember there was a Guru Shishya Parampara. And then remember, first book of Tamil grammar was Agattiyam, and then Tolkappiyam was the result when Tolkappia wrote. It is said. Now even Tolkappia, it is not anthropocentric. What is remarkable in our aesthetic tradition, that as Architect Valmiki already insinuated and foregrounded, the significance of the sahacharya, the synergy, the togetherness, the sahitya, as I said, that sahitya between the humans and the non-humans. Not the humans lord over the non-humans. Therefore, there will be a violation of sahitya. Therefore, the Prithvi Sukta gives us that terra firma, that firm ground to understand who we are. And who we are can only be understood through certain value systems. And there are 65 mantras arranged together in the Prithvi Sukta. All the elements, forests, rivers, even plants, even those hills, the pathways, the water bodies, this whole environment, quality of air, water, everything is to be preserved and protected from the possible pollutants. Please read the Bhumi Sukta. Mata Bhumi Put. Local and global. I am global because I'm the putra of Prithivya, because my Bhumi is my Mata. So Bhumi is the local. You have to be Swadeshi in order to be a true internationalist. You can never go towards Sarvodaya or the truly global position, that is Sarvodaya position, without being Swadeshi, without adopting Swadeshi, without being Atma Nirbhar through Atma Shuddhi and Atma Bodh, as Gandhi so wonderfully said in Hind Swaraj. I missed a casual reference even to the Hind Swaraj. More than Foucault, Gandhi was the one who offered this whole discourse of counter-modernity, that modernity which created the condition. We do not need as many hospitals and law courts and police stations in order to be called a civilized society. That is Gandhi. You remember? So all these kinds of things alert us to the dangers of that society that we are slowly and surely becoming. Remember, such situation was also faced by Goswami Tulsidas. Again, coming from your Banaras. Indrajit ji, how far Assi Ghat is from your college? 3 kilometers, 4 kilometers. So remember, now on the Assi Ghat, Goswami Tulsidas ji saw that endemic, that you can not call it pandemic, but endemic, that is that Mahamari in Kashi, a plague-like condition in Kashi. You fondly remember La Peste by Albert Camus, that absurdist text, that text of Vibhats and Bhayanak Rasa by Camus, Kafka's Metamorphosis. Spare a thought, my dear gentlemen and ladies, for Goswami Tulsidas's, Kavitavali. There are some 10 padas strung together on Kashi's Mahamari. And some of the padas are moving. What is the cause of the Kashi's Mahamari, which is the Nagari ruled over by the Lord of the universe, that is Shiva Nataraj. He says that our own sins, corruptions, unethical behavior, our indifference, our remember, all these evil things. Varanasi, Bhutiya ne aisi gati, Shankara sahare ki, kaise kahe tulsi, Brashasura ke bardana, Ban jana sudhata che pivane jahare ki. Are, Visha and Amrita. Kashi is the site. Let this Vishwanath, he is not only the Lord of Kashi, Vishwanath. And if there is a Vishwanath, Vishwanath can only be the one who drinks that poison, that zahar, that wish. Only then you can enjoy Amrita. You can pursue your Amrita Akanksha is only possible. As I said, look at the Rishi who warned you that isolated pursuit of your Vidya will take you towards darkness. And isolated pursuit of avidya, your scientific knowledge, will also take you towards darkness. And then he says, Amrit Mrityum Vidya Avidya Mrityum Tirtya. Through my scientific knowledge, I will conquer death, this discourse of death. Remember, death is one of the most loaded metaphors in Western as well as our global imagination, is that of death, Mrityu. But we says that Mrityu, we are not so much bothered about. We are bothered about Amritatva. Therefore, Avidya Mrityum Tirtha, Vidya Amritam Vishnute. True knowledge will take us towards mukti. True knowledge will take us towards mukti. Therefore, if you read those 10 padas by Goswami Tulsidas, they are full of vibhatsarasa, because they say that the spectacle of the ailing humanity, suffering humanity of this Panchakoshi Kashi, is moving, and moving is heart-rending. But because look at the behavior of the ruling party. Ruling party means those who have Prabhusatta, those who have power in their hands, they are completely inimical, indifferent to others. So you can say that had Tulsidas ji been there, what would have the Sant of Asighat said about the plight of the migrant laborers, about those who are dying each second, each minute, out of the trauma, out of the pain and malady, this corona pandemic. So that is very important. Remember this. And what is the way out? What is the way out? Way out is that jnana, karma, and bhakti. Bhakti means our total devotion to the absolute. And jnana offer endeavors to produce some sort of ethical knowledge which is ethical because it is Daiviya, it is divine, it is not Asuri, it is not Tamasic, So Sattvic and Rajasic knowledge, remember, will always result into some sort of enablement, some sort of empowerment of our buddhi, sanitization of our chitta vritti nirodha. So instead of, as you rightly said, Mehma, it is not a lamentation of the loss or counting or quantifying through percentages and percentiles of the gains. Remember, gains of the corona or the of corona. It is through our inward journey. We are creative minds, thinking minds. There should be an inward journey, the journey within, which should enable us to address the cause of such
malady. Sorry to interrupt, but please conclude. Time.
Yes,
we are on wave.
Yes. So to sum it up, I would again use a kind of aesthetic framework suggested by one of the most eminent writers of the world, who was based in Kashi. And remember, if you compare what actually went wrong with our Sahitya, our aesthetics, our poetics, and how we created a condition where we feel we are in a state of stasis. Remember Premchand's, again I come, one of the greatest writers of the world, coming from Banaras and Lamhi, and his famous address, Sahitya Ka Uddeshya. And then perhaps towards the end of the essay, he says, literature is the manifest form, literature means Sahitya is the manifest form of an artist's spiritual harmony with the world. So spiritual harmony is spiritual with the world. It doesn't negate the secular. It creates a harmony, samanjasya, sahitya. It nurtures in us sincerity, integrity, sympathy, equality, and love for justice. Again, these are the attributes of dharma. Whenever these feelings or values exist, there has to be strength and life, gatimanata, pragatishilata, dynamicity, not stasis. Then he says, Premchand, wherever these values are lacking, there exist divisions, dissent, selfishness, hatred, enmity, and death. Remember, the cause of corona, the civilizational cause of corona, remember, lies in all these evils. And then he says, the destructive disintegration and dissent are the signs of a life in conflict with nature. Premchand. Allotted in 1936, your own writer from Banaras. Now you can compare Premchand's poetics with the poetics of Feng Feng, the Wuhan Diary, 2020. In January 2020, Feng Feng, the Wuhan-based Chinese writer, started writing online the situation, the condition of the corona-afflicted people in Wuhan. And when Premchand ends, remember, Premchand says that this destructive disintegration and dissent are the signs of a life in conflict with nature, as disease is a sign of a life in conflict with nature. Remember, disease is a sign of a lifestyle in conflict with nature. So remember, in the context of corona, if you are adopting a lifestyle which is in conflict with nature, there will be a pandemic again. And then he says, wherever there is harmony and coexistence, sahacharya, synergy with nature, sahitya with nature, there cannot exist parochialism and selfishness. Where our Atman gets nourishment from the free environment of nature, easily the germs of wickedness and evil get destroyed because of air and light. All the psychological and emotional diseases arise because of our alienation from nature. Now remember, now the watchwords are alienation, separation, duri, social distancing, untouchability. They have become the apad dharma values. Apad dharma, the terms which we would never have liked to use. And in the context of corona, we are using all these terms as a kind of value-loaded terms. And therefore, to end, I would quote Premchandji again. Sahitya makes our life natural. Look at the Devi Sampada, 26 attributes of Devi Sampada, that divine qualities which are enjoined upon us, we enjoined upon to acquire those. The Bhagavad Gita, 16th chapter, first three shlokas. And then he says, Sahitya makes our life natural and free, enabling us to purify our mind, sanitize our mind and consciousness and chitta vritti. This is the main aim of Sahitya. This is the Sahitya ka uddeshya. नमस्कार, मैं आपका बहुत बहुत आभारी हूँ. त्रुटियों के लिए क्षमा चाहता हूँ. धन्यवाद.
Thank you, sir, for throwing light on the subject. And whenever human beings will violate nature, nature will definitely restore its balance. Thank you again. And now I would like to invite Professor K.M. Pandey, sir, with this brief introduction. Professor Pandey is currently heading Department of English, BHU Varanasi. He has authored 3 books and published more than 4 dozen research papers and articles in different national and international journals and books. He has been into the keynote, plenary address and valedictory address in many prestigious institutes of India. I can only say about sir that he is replete with knowledge, humility, generosity, and simplicity. So without taking much time, over to you, sir.
Thank you. Words to me. It's your affection. Can you hear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Om Dyau Shantirantarikshadvam Shantih Prithvi Shantirapaha Shantiroshadhayaha Shantih Vanaspatayaha Shantir Vishwedevaha Shantir Brahma Shantih Sarva Shantih Shanteva Shantih Santiredhi Om Shantih Shantih. May there be peace in heaven. May there be peace in sky. May there be earth. May there be peace in waters. May there be peace in planets. May there be peace in all divinities. May it be in Brahma, may it be in all and in me. This has been the invocation we have in most of our activities, and this verse has been available to us in different forms in many of our Upanishads. Respected Professor Satyadev Singh Ji, the great principal and soul behind the academic activities of the Institute, Professor Sudhir Bhai and Dr. Dhananjay Singh Ji, Shri Ajit Singh Ji, the Secretary of the College, the vibrant team of English Department of DAV, delegates from various parts of India and the globe. I began with the Shanti part, and you might have thought, what is going on here? It's in fact this samatva, this equilibrium that we aim at. It was this very word, cultural stasis. Our Professor Sudhir Kumarji has elaborated this term in detail, especially the first one, culture, and also focused on stasis, which is often interpreted as inactivity or equilibrium. The second term is more important, sthiti pragya. Only teachers and academicians of DAV College could have thought about this word. I'm sure it is the second meaning that dominates here. Professor Sudhir Kumar in his talk referred to Prithvi Sukta in detail, also referred to one of its famous lines. I would like to read the whole one full mantra. Because very often we take one part and leave the other. This happens many a time. Yatte Prithvi Yachanabhyam Yaste Urjas Tanvaha Sambabhuva Tasuno Dheyabhi Naha Pavaswa Mata Bhumi Pitruham Prithivya Parjanyah Pita Sa U Naha Pipartu. This is one full mantra, out of which this one has been loved by many of us. Mata Bhumi Pitruham Prithivya. These are relational terms. Mata, Pita, Bhai, Bahan, Guru. Guru can't be there without Shishya. You can't have a school, an institution without the students and teachers. It is not the building that is important. It is not the body, but the soul behind it. I may translate this verse for many of our foreign delegates. O earth, your middle part and the upper part, these parts of your body are full of various qualities. O mother, take me in your lap and love me and nourish me, because I am your son and you are my mother. And may our father Parjanya, the god of rains, shower his blessings on us. This has been the ideal. This ideal relationship we have been trained in. It's as unique and attractive and glorious as the relationship we have among real physical parents and children. The Rishi Angiras, Sudhir Bhai referred to that group of verses, 65 verses, there. Angiras is the first known person in the world who addressed Earth as mother. We get as many as 64 mantras in Prithvi Sukta, in which the Rishi expresses his gratitude to the Mother Earth. The great scholar from Varanasi, Professor Vasudev Sharan Agarwal, observes that the kind of narration about the form of Mother Earth and national or human unity is peerless here. The earth is seen in multiple grand forms. Vishwambara, she fills the belly of the whole world. Vasudha, Dharayati Vasus, mountains, snowy regions, forests, mother of Aushadhis and Vanaspatis. Herbal plants and medicinal plants, two categories. Water, fire. In one verse, Rishi Angira says, you are like Kamadhenu. You can give anything that we want. And all your islands be free from diseases. In one of the verses, there is this prayer also. Samasta Dweep Nirog ho. All the islands be free from diseases. Oh mother, you should be Mangal Daini. You are Mangal Daini. This has been the tradition. This ideal continued for a long, long time, and it does continue in a minuscule community now. But some drastic changes came in our known history, in our outlook. The earth, who was the mother? I'm not using the word which. English language has this problem also. Which for neutral gender. For us, she is the mother. The earth, who was the mother, became a subject of upbhog, use for human beings. And we started having one day for it. 22nd April has been decided by UN to celebrate it. One single day for parents, for father, grandfather, friends, this and that. It should be for all the 365 days. Sato din Bhagwan ke. Kya mangal, kya veer. And we started having this for one day, and all of a sudden this rupture came in the form of another slogan. Veer Bhogya Vasundhara. Veer Bhogya Vasundhara. One who is powerful will rule this world, will usurp this earth, will use and misuse it. Whenever the ego of man is uncontrolled, the earth becomes a subject of material use only. This ultimately leads to destruction, as can be seen during the Renaissance period. The beauty of it and also its tragedy, so visible in the plays of Marlowe and Shakespeare, and more so in the writings and philosophical observations of Francis Bacon. I need not remind you of the famous lines, "What piece of work is a man, but it doesn't delight me." In our tradition, again, Professor Sudhir Kumar referred to Aitareya Brahmana. It has, because from that very thing, post-Vedic period, we can say around 3000 BC. Remember, it is in the whatever date you decide. Many scholars think that it was written around 3000 BC. We get this kind of verse, this change in outlook. A anta parardham prithivyayi samudra paryanta ekaradati. Someone who rules up to the sea. Views like this gave birth to an idea of empire, which was liked by the Puranas, and kings started liking titles like Chaturdadhi Salila Swajita Yataha, one who has won the earth in all the four directions up to the sea. Even in Kalidas, 3rd century, we get this very phrase, Asamudrak Chitisha Nam Anakarath Vartmanam, referring to the great lineage of Raghu. Says they could cover the whole earth, and their chariot could also go to heaven. So the sky is this bhokta bhav. We get another word, upbhokta. I need not explain that. We have Professor S.D. Singh ji here, the great economist. The bhokta bhav, it had two versions. One who knows how to use, and there is one who consumes. The bhokta bhav has that very verse, that very ideal in the mind. Purvaneve karmani jiji vishecham sama. Doing something with selflessness. But this bhokta bhav, the I-ness comprising physical power, made the kings be owner and possessor of the concept, I am the son of the mother earth. This started dimming and it started giving birth to the other one. I am the consumer. I have the right to consume anything and everything upon this earth. This did not stop only to the things upon the earth products, but also even the brothers and fellow brothers and sisters were not left in the name of color, class, caste, gender. Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, yes, we are
I
listening.
audible. Corona has compelled us to review our models of development, be it our modern sciences, hospitals, or even educational institutions or organizations. There was no integrated approach to these, and the lack of interrelatedness was there. Take, for example, the development of our metro cities. Why were they surrounded by slums? Mumbai has faced the largest number of corona deaths. We should ask this question, why? The very center of the cultural, the economic capital of the country has faced the havoc, has paid the maximum price. Why? And the Gandhian model appears again, which is seen in our PM's slogan, be vocal for local. Be self-sufficient. Develop your models, keeping in view the background of the state, its environment, and its resources, natural as well as human. I give you a personal example. In 1970s, a group of Indian bureaucrats and politicians went to Australia and liked the large eucalyptus plants which grew very fast. A large-scale campaign was started. We could purchase the plant for 10 paisa only. I planted more than 100 plants, and the result was the land became barren and the water level went down. We have to remember that economic growth is just 1/4 growth. Acharya Kautilya in his Arthashastra talked about the modalities, but we forgot that and accepted other models without verifying their viability, concentrating only on material growth and making it the synonym of development. We forgot the holistic approach which respected mutuality and otherness. This other was not the colonial or post-colonial other, but one in whom one could see his own self. Corona has killed lakhs of people in the whole world, and many more are rushing daily in the mouth of Mahakal or Mahakali. The unprecedented saddening picture. And even now, we don't have any medicine for it. Even if a vaccine is there, there's no conformity that we will not have another virus 100 years later. Only physical distancing can save us from its grip. But the title of this webinar had two things, the loss as well as the gain. I hope many would be talking about the loss. I'm referring to some of the points where we can learn from it, where the gain is there. There have been several positive sides of this deadly, invisible enemy. I'm reminded of the Raktbij metaphor in Durga Saptashati. If one drop of Raktbij fell on earth, a demon equal in size and power came out. So he thought he would not be killed that way. If anybody wants to kill him, he will multiply. We have the same kind of thing with Corona. But what has it taught? We learned that our basic needs are not much. We spend a lot on lifestyle without taking care of its impact on others. This forced lockdown has given us time to introspect. Antargaman, Manan, Chintan, Nididhyasan, giving us an opportunity to think about the balance, this samatva. Our philosophers talked about human body as the whole universe. The Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande. What is there in the universe is inside your body. So if the balance is lost, we'll never be healthy. It has given us time to think about this aspect as well. We have seen the beautiful dance of nature. Rivers have become pure. What crores of rupees couldn't do has been done by COVID-19 lockdown. This has reminded us that it is not nature that has been disturbed. We had disturbed nature, we had polluted nature, and if we do this, if we do not stop this, nature may take its revenge. Nature may make a balance on its own. All other living beings have become happy. The sparrows which have gone away from us are happily chirping in my vicinity. The air pollution, especially urban areas and metros, has significantly come down during this pandemic. I remember 2 years ago, we were in Delhi and we were asked not to go for morning walk because in the morning, in the foggy winter season, the outside air was not healthy. It might cause infection. So we could not go out. We thought we were jailed. The air pollution has gone to a very low level during this pandemic. For example, Delhi's pollution level changed from 162 on 25th March to 90 on 2nd of May. Mumbai's level from 117 on March 25 to 70 2nd May. I also came across this news that the black hole has been filled up and will save us from the direct rays of the sun. Scientists the world over were planning for many years how to fill that black hole so as to save us from the direct rays of the sun. The particular gases we will have to use masks in the months to come. There's another thing, we have to use it. And every inhale and exhale will remind us that we need oxygen. What we can live is something which is not good for us. The mask has made us realize that we emit carbon dioxide and with each exhale need oxygen. Mother Earth has given trees for this and we'll have to maintain a balance between the two to maintain health. We have also realized the value of our homes and its homely environment, the place where we have to earn our grace. We have spent quality time with our kin. Those who were disturbed or bored being inside their homes, they have seen the pictures of those suffering on the roads, covering thousands of distances to reach the place where they could have solace, where they could have happiness. This pandemic has made us look at the world also in a transformed way. The use of technology has emerged as a means which requires much less cost. Look at our webinars and teleconferences, video conferences, interviews, viva voce exams, interpersonal calls. They have become easy. No doubt we have to adapt ourselves to this technology, but in due course of time we would be accustomed of it and this would become the norm. We do not know whether the new virus of COVID is man-made or sprouted on its own. But one thing is clear, it has been killing only human beings. This is something to be remembered. It has been killing only human beings and no other living organisms. It spreads only among humans while contacting one another. Whatever sanitization is done by us can save us partially because karma is done at various levels. Manasa, vacha, karmana. There are different levels of karma. This very word sanitization has become a common word today. Let me refer to the genesis of this word, sanify, to make healthy. From Latin sanus, meaning sound. But sanity, there is another word now which it had become obsolete. archaic use it was. Sanity was soundness of mind, rationality. We know rationality is just one small segment of our brain. It has several other parts. Sanity is just one part, and we looked only at the binary of sanity and insanity, and also sanitary pertaining to promotion of health, sanitation, sanitization, sanitary engineer dealing with pure water, sanitary inspector, sanitary towel, not to say about sanitary napkins here. Some basic words need to be remembered continuously by us. This very word basic also comes from base, Aadhar. For example, the word swasth, to be healthy. Swa mein sthit, to be complete in oneself. One has to live in one's limit. And for this, it is necessary to know the limit. Medieval English had this idiom, hale and hearty and whole and hearty. Being healthy was to be whole, W-H-O-L-E. Even if the sky or the depth of the sea is the limit, we have to respect the existence of other living beings in it, because air has water, water has air and fire, and the stone too has life, as Sri Aurobindo said, the only difference being its level of consciousness. So I wish also I might end my talk with one other word. Swasth, Swadhin, Swatantra, Swarashtra, Swadesho Bhuvanatrayam. When we think of the three worlds, the sky, the earth, and the earth below the earth, there have been other level of looking at this reality. We talk about 14 bhuvanas. In my class 7th, my guru gave me this mantra. I had not understood the meaning. Om Bhur Bhuvaha, Om Bhu, Om Bhuvaha, Om Swaha, Om Maha, Om Jannaha, Om Tapaha, Om Satyam. The 7 words in the mantra refer to 7 bhuvanas above the earth. There are 14 kinds of worlds, places, bhulok for, and we get this in Vishnu Purana. 7 above and 7 below. Bhulok for human beings, Bhuvarlok in the Antariksh, sky for gods, Swarlok still higher for Indra, Maharlok for Siddhas, Janalok for variety of rishis like Sanak, then Tapalok, and ultimately the Satyalok or the Brahmalok. And then there are 7 worlds below this earth: Atal, Vital, Nital, Gabhastiman, Mahatal, Sutal, and Patal. We refer to Patal and the highest level just to refer to these 3. But there have been these 14 kinds of worlds, and all have their own quality. Science and technology have found some of these. I do not know whether these worlds were there or not, but our Rishi, the Drashta, could see it and could refer to this, and could also refer to this thing that even when we speak, we make a sport. When we move, we also disturb this. So what to say and how to say and where is to be taken care of. This social distancing, we never liked this kind of thing. We wanted closeness. But now we have to learn it in a new way. Thank you all for giving me this opportunity and for sharing my stray thoughts related to the seminar. I once again thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for throwing light on such a relevant topic. And yes, loss and gain is the part of life, but we should always keep alive our spirit of realizing otherness of the other. Thank you again, sir. Now it's time to listen to our another distinguished guest, Professor Dhananjay Singh. I introduce Professor Dhananjay here. Sir, I hope you are here.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me? Yes. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Let me introduce you, sir. Professor Dhananjay Singh is currently chairperson of Center for English Studies, School of Language, Literature and Culture Studies, JNU, New Delhi. He is specialized in Indian aesthetics and poetics, Indian theory of theatre and performance, comparative poetics, Indian philosophy, and Indian philosophy of language, modern Irish literature, contemporary Irish poetry, modernist poetry, and Canadian fiction. To his credit, 42 research papers and articles are. He has published 5 textbooks and 5 poems. He has delivered more than 25 lectures in India and abroad, which includes his lectures in USA, Dublin, and at University of Bergamo, Italy. He has been visiting professor and research fellow in Italy and Ireland. He is well versed in Indian mythology, culture, and philosophical systems. I'm really grateful to Sir that he accepted our invitation and joined us. So over to you, Sir.
Thank you so much, Mahimaji, for this opportunity. Um, I hope am I audible? And
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So I'll keep within the time that's allotted to me, which is roughly 20 minutes. Honorable Principal, DAV College, Dr. S.D. Singh ji, my elder brother Sudhir Kumar ji, it's such a pleasure listening to him. Professor K.M. Pandey ji, the Secretary of the College, Sri Ajit Kumar Singh ji. Well, you know, some of the issues that I'm going to talk today, you know, have already been touched upon. So broadly, I'm going to reiterate these issues, obviously with examples that are going to be different. Am I audible? And this little kind of you know uncanny here. But Mahima, am I audible? Is
Yes,
it okay?
Yes,
yes,
yes.
sir, you are audible. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah, all right, all right. So obviously, there has been a huge paradigmatic sweep that we have, you know, listened, or we have got from Sudhirji's talk and Professor Pandey's talk. Obviously, our tradition, Indic tradition, and somehow the Corona pandemic also makes us realize the pathos of the migrant crisis, the working class, the farmers as such. And this whole idea of oneness as such, oneness of existence, which is all the more important to consider today. But the question remains as to how do we actually bring the sentiments of the people who are suffering as such today. कि हम बानी किसान हमरा बेटा भूखे सुतेला हे राम, और जो दर्द है जिन मजदूरों ने जो है मुंबई बनाया, जिन मजदूरों ने दिल्ली बनाया, उनकी हालात पे तो ये सोचने पे मजबूर करता है. But anyhow, COVID-19 pandemic has united the world in a way as a collective victim. It is a mystery of the virus, a formidable but invisible terminator from the non-human world that makes us identify ourselves as humans and evoke a global humanity. I take it from the title of your conference, a global humanity as a psychosocial panacea. Now, the phrase cultural stasis in the title of the webinar can perhaps be interpreted as an emptiness of a cultural paradigm to contain the virus, in turn based on the failure of the science to come up with a vaccine to defeat the spread of the virus across human bodies and indeed mind. Now, there has been a flurry of discourses on the pandemic already all over the world, webinars, research papers, newspaper columns, social media visuals, images, narratives, poetry, short fiction, memes, and all that. Now, all this would perhaps downplay, if not outrightly reject, any description of the COVID culture as characterized by stasis. But then all these discussions and discourses have emerged as effects of the corona, rather than representing a human agency to contend it as such. Now, there have been pandemics earlier, as serious perhaps as the current coronavirus pandemic, for example, the Spanish flu of 1918. But the psychophysical proximity of the globe due to satellite television, internet, and social media platforms.
Professor Dhananjay, can you hear me?
He is not audible.
It seems he is disconnected. Let me.
Try again.
Okay. He will join us within a minute. He got disconnected. He will join us within a minute. Professor Dhananjay, have you joined us?
Magma?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry for this. So I was talking about this binary of the human and the non-human that this corona pandemic has created. And this binary as such is a human trick with ulterior political ambitions that we have heard in the speeches of all world leaders. A binary, basic,
नाव कसं घेता विचारा म्हणले म्हणलं विचारत नाही त्यांना बोलवतो आणि तुम्हाला पण बोलवतो हा बोला म्हणलंय
yeah, is it all right?
Yes, sir. You continue.
म्हणजे तुम्ही त्यांच्या समोर म्हटलं नाही मी काय सांगतो मी आपल्याच्या वारंवार काय सांगू मी तुम्हाला काय सांगितलं डॉक्टर
Dhananjay sir, can you hear me? Please unmute yourself.
डॉक्टरचं नाव घेतलंच नाही तुम्ही मी काय काय
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
I'm really
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Yeah, so I was talking about this binary
Madam,
virus
who is he?
and the non-human virus. That serves as an abstract structure. Violence, death, and disease caused by other binaries of race, gender, caste, and class. Now, months after the spread of the coronavirus, are still in a time zone overwhelmingly controlled by the corona. Typically makes it impossible for those in humanities like us to make a set of coherent arguments.
Sir, sorry to interrupt. Mohammad Mustafa Makandar, kindly mute your mic. Mohammad Mustafa Makandar, kindly mute your mic.
Mr. Nazam, please list him out, whosoever he is.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, may I continue? Is that all right?
Yes, sir. Sorry for interruption.
No, that's all right.
Yeah.
We in the humanities draw our axioms from the verbal, emotive, bodily, and yeah. We in the humanities saying draw our exit from verbal, emotive, bodily, and psychical representations of lived lives, which, to use an Indic vocabulary, is abhinay in theatre and performance, and dhvani in poetry and narrative fiction. The etymological meaning of abhinay or performance is to take a meaning forward to the audience, while the meaning of dhvani in dhvani kavya or kavya shastra is to cognize the subtle meanings of existence that are inexplicable in usual ordinary language of discourse or non-literary, non-performative discourse. The objective of literature and humanities is to produce at this juncture a new hermeneutics of a global crisis by taking true meaning to our audience, perhaps incomprehensible to the dying and suffering masses. The corona and its inconsequential other lockdown have created a temporal consciousness of continual deferment, that we are deferring all the time, the lockdown, and the impossibility of seeing a future that could bring a closure to this. This is an experience which is very akin to the double negation in our Buddhist thought, which makes possible only perceptions of disparate experiences, experiences of the middle class, for instance, experiences of governmentality, to use Foucault's term, which I'll use again, experience of the working classes, migrant classes, older people, the experience of the disabled, the experience of the women nurses, for instance, and all that. The phrase that you have used in your concept note, the spiral theory of history, is the one that I actually thought of bringing in. The Yeatsian philosophy of an apocalypse, almost 100 years before now, exactly a year after the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918. And as all of us aware, yes, say turning and turning in a widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer, things fall apart. The center cannot hold, mere anarchy is loosed upon the the ceremony of innocence is drowned. We can read anxiety, death, dismay, especially of the poor and the working classes, as victims of a diseased bureaucratic and political system. As a dhvanyarth, suggestive meaning of these lines today, 100 years after, more than 100 years after, Yeats wrote this amazing poem. In fact, Yeats himself, in an April 1936 letter, meant these lines to be read as expressive of horror that, as the cruelty of governments grows greater, communist, fascist, nationalist, clerical, anti-clerical, all are responsible according to the number of the victims. This is what Yeats is. It was 101 years ago. I have not been silent, he says. I have used the only vehicle I possess, verse. And then he refers to these lines in that interview, 1936 interview. It is expected from those of us in the humanities to read the corona pandemic as a catalyst, not merely as a problem. It has raised older systemic problems in our governmentality, and it's our duty to address the institutionalized network of cognitions that produce modes of living at peace with the structures of oppression. It to the category of itihasa, vis-a-vis history, in uncovering long-standing layers of global conditions that have been the causal factors of the present crisis would be important. And I'll make reference to what Sudhirji talked about, the categories in Indian history, for instance, not a category that would bring a kind, and which of course is narrative, rather narrative determined by dharma. This whole debate of fake news and fake narratives, if you had asked an early Indian, or an ancient Indian, he would not have been interested in, because they're all narratives. Because the word that we will use is darshan. I'll come to it in some point from now. Now, W.B. Yeats, the Irish poet, philosopher, thinker, statesperson, theatre manager, a cultural critic, was pretty close, all of us know, to Indian way of thinking. And when he identifies the contrary realities of the objective and the subjective, the scientific and the religious, etc., as a contending poles of his gyric conception of history, the present crisis that we are in signals that a stage in world history, if I'm using Yeats, has arrived when the gyre of the capitalist world order, at least I hope to think, is at its maximum growth, based as it is on the progress or the claims of progress that science makes. But it also signals, am I audible, please?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. But it also signals an incipient alternative world order based on non-Western knowledge societies. If not fully confrontational with it, then at least possessing strength to contend with it. India indeed has an opportunity to stand strong on its cultural values from its past, provided it does not willfully remains ignorant of the tragic and horrific conditions in which its poor live, or rather are killed, and merely celebrate that we are ancient. Yes, we are ancient, but we deserve to be true inheritors of our great ancient past? Otherwise, we would never have that great commentary tradition. If we cannot have 20th century realities addressed by these texts, they're all great texts. Now, coming back to Itihas, the Sanskrit word Itihas denotes narrative rather than history. Now, rather than on the whatness of the event, which anyway cannot be established in a culture which places primacy on darshanas rather than fixed system, what is important is a cyclical association of entities. And you do mention the cyclical notion of history in your concept note. The Sankhya philosophical system proposes the perspective of Satkaryavad, for instance, which argues that nothing comes from nothing. The physical reality of the world is structured in terms of cyclical relations between proximate and distant causes and effects. A contending system of knowledge to this is Buddha's the Bodha Darshana, which presents its fundamental vision as that of dependent origination, Pratitya Samutya Pada, which argues that nothing exists independently and absolutely, but is cyclically connected with the conditions prior to it and produces conditions posterior to it. However, it is not to be confused with the temporal division of ontic reality. What it proposes is that all discourses of fixed idea, about fixed idea of an entity are merely fictitious. As for example, the corona pandemic. The pandemic is merely an aropa to bring a concept from Buddhism and of course our other systems as well, an imposed image of a medley of factors that have been ailing the humanity. And one primary factor, as Professor Pandey, K.M. Pandeyji, Dirji talked about, been our attitude to nature, determined by a non-Indian, a non-Western, I should say, capitalist-driven, and we have also become part of that, obviously, value system. The rich nations of the world, like Trump, for instance, have ignored the warnings of the climate crisis. They've just dismissed it outrightly. Now, for instance, in my university campus in Jainier, Pandeyji's respected animals have returned from forest, and they walk past our house, and we had many. I mean, one particular works of man which says that actually the humans are in the cages in their houses, in fact, and the animals are roaming the streets and having a kind of therefore a subversive glance at the humans who have been caged. Now, the virus from the animal world is a warning for us to return to nature what belongs to it. Clean water, air, and land where animals do not fear humans. And we belong to nature. A possibility for times to come when we also return to nature while we are living, and not wait till another time to come when we are forced to return to nature. This philosophy of the unity of being is central to the traditional Indian system. For example, to just take two examples, both Shaivism as well as Sufism, it is a return to the consciousness of the oneness of beings that contain the open secret of humanity's survival past this crisis. The pre-modern aesthetics, you could tell me how, if I'm crossing the time, please. The pre-modern aesthetics and poetics in India develops theoretical axioms out of ecological experience. And this is governed by a worldview, a darshan, first expressed and continuing from our earliest texts that sees no boundaries, no binaries between the human and the natural. Therefore, our philosophical, literary, and cultural practices recognize and utilize environmental and ecological attributes of our lives. Forget about literature, even our philosophy. To just give an example, the grammarian philosopher Bhartrhari, 5th century CE, refers to natural objects to develop his theory of linguistic symbolism. In fact, we all know that Ferdinand de Saussure's that famous linguistic turn, for instance, is perhaps possible because he was professor of Sanskrit and certainly, obviously, the genius that Saussure was, had read Bhartrhari and understood quite well. Now, I'm talking about Bhartrhari's philosophy of linguistic symbolism and how much of ecological aesthetics, the closeness of human, the consciousness, the language to nature comes out in that theory. Just give you a passage, for instance, where he's talking about the crux of his theory, which is the distinction between dhvani, the phenomenal sound, the sound that I am producing right now, the sound that you're hearing, and the cognitive sound, the spota, the sound that produces meaning, the sound of music, for instance. And to talk about this, to discuss this, in fact, and these are all oral texts primarily, even though they're written down, and therefore it's obvious that they're using, analogies from lived experiences in pure philosophy. He's using the images of moon in water bodies. And to quote from Bhartrhari's English translation, the reflection of an object like the moon appears to be connected with and to have properties of its substratum. What he's trying to say here is this, that the moon is almost comparable to the Plato's image, the cave image, but obviously we are not bound there, but it is almost comparable to that. What he's saying is this, that the moon's image gets reflected in myriad water bodies. Now, for us to have an empirical view of it, I mean, if you forget looking at the moon, if you don't have a knowledge of that, then the reflection can only be possible due to the existence of the water. But can the water be equated with the moon? But somebody might argue without the water, there's no reflection. Now, that is a relationship between language and meaning that he's talking about. It's impossible to establish a communication without language, but then language essentially is not the meaning that we seek to communicate. So what we're doing all the time, we are basically making sounds. And it's very interesting, it's a detailed thesis. Now, what he's saying is this, that the spota, therefore, the essential word, therefore, and the sound that I'm producing right now, there's absolutely no relationship. It's all based on symbolism. And this symbolism, this cognitive ability to interpret meanings of symbol is inherent to every human. I mean, so what I'm trying to say is, and there are other examples, for instance, from Bhartrhari, you have this whole aesthetic philosophy of dhvani that Anandavardhan develops later on about suggestiveness. This whole great departure that we have in Western poetry and literature in the mid-19th century, but introduced by the French symbolists, the whole idea that the meanings of poetry, especially poetry, can never, and also theater, of course, can never be described or communicated. They can only be suggested, for instance. A great influence that will ultimately lead for those doing English studies to Eliot. It happens in India in 9th, 10th century CE with Anandavardhana. And in fact, the verse that Anandavardhana Abhinavagupta would quote to discuss it is the example that Sudhirji gave about the pair, the curled pair of the curly birds, the separation, and the Karun Ras and the Valmiki's Ramayana. What Anandavardhana would argue is in all great literature, all great poetry, language can only suggest through symbols as such. He uses dhwani in 5 senses, which I don't have time for, but the point that I'm trying to make here is this. Now, to explain a particular category of dhwani, Indians were masters of categorizing categories and subcategories because they thought so minutely about every distinction. That's why we have a kind of a very diverse way of looking at things. Now, to conceptualize and formulate a particular category of dhwani called vivakshit tanya paravachya dhwani, a type of dhwani or suggestion. That's the difference between English symbolism and the Indian symbolism, is because in European symbolism, a symbol, a word, and an object or an image suggests a meaning. In the Indian, symbolic aesthetics of poetry and also theater, if you read creatively Abhinavagupta, a word may suggest a meaning, and that meaning may suggest another meaning, and the third meaning may suggest another meaning. So there's a layers of meaning. So to explain that, Anandavardhan is quoting from Prakrit poetry, and he quotes from a verse of Dharmakirti. Dharmakirti was a Buddhist philosopher and a poet. It's very difficult to say whether the poet and the philosopher are the same person, but all these are irrelevant to our system. And the verse that Anandavardhan quotes is this: "Oh, what mountain, and for how long? And what was the name of his austerity? I mean, these little parrots." So he's seeing a parrot, that he should bite into a cherry as pink as your lip. It's suggestive. It's interesting. If it has to be a Buddhist philosopher to write a poem on Shringara, and to say that this parrot must have, gone through years of austerity to have this experience, this joy, this taste of the cherry, which is as beautiful as your lip.
Sir, please conclude.
All right, I'll just draw towards the conclusion. Now, the point that I wanted to discuss from here is this: that the internal and the external, the subjective and the objective, that distinction does not apply to Indian system of thought. One way to look at it is to use the example of guna, for instance. What is body after all? We see dying bodies. We see how this whole discourse of medicine treats a body, a dead body, it's packaged and then it's got rid of. In the Indian thought system, the duality of the mind and body does not apply. What I'm trying to say here is this, that, and going back to my original point is this, that perhaps the pandemic is an opportunity. There's a lot of discourse about that. There's an opportunity, economic opportunity, but there's an opportunity here for all of us in humanities to say, to perhaps think, not say, but think that the underlying problems that affect our societies, be it based on caste or class or gender, are surfaced. You see, we have been seeing it, are surfaced. I've been following very curiously various, social media memes on the coronavirus, starting from the first one, which showed a person somewhere in a European city. He just falls like an object. It's dead and falls like an object. And it's kind of spread to the background music of sadness, of sorrow. So from sorrow and fear to that of humor. So in the initial days when it came to India, almost for 10, 15 days, you had lots of memes circulated of humor, for instance. But the humor was a privilege of the middle class, like us, like myself. And it was And then it has kind of moved from humor to disgust, to anger, to wonder as well. When you talk of the COVID warriors, to wonder also when you talk of a Dalit girl, taking his, riding a bicycle for 1,200 kilometers, 1,100 kilometers, taking his father back home. An emotion of wonder, perhaps in humanities. And it has happened in recent terms where this whole binary distinction between emotion and reason has been questioned. It's time for us to think about a new hermeneutics based on emotion, emotive hermeneutics, perhaps. Disparate as it may be, it's not essential that we should actually construct, create something which is argumentatively very brief and precise now, because almost time reminds you of post-World War time. Perhaps I'm not exaggerating it. Of course, I know I'm exaggerating it, but for those people who have died, who have suffered, who have had to live for 5 days without food, and they finally died, it's nothing different. Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for this opportunity to address to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. You rightly remarked generic notion of WE8 and covered wide range of Indian systems of thought. Thank you again. Now we move to Principal Sir for his presidential remark. Sir is the pivot of all action here at DAV PG College. So with all humility, I request Sir for his presidential remark.
Thank you, Mahima. Good afternoon, everyone. Very respected chief guest of today's function and keynote speaker, Professor Sudhir Kumar. He belongs to Multidisciplinary Research Center, Punjab University. Professor K.M. Pandey, Head of Department of English, BHU. Professor Dhananjay Singh, Chairperson, Center for English Studies, School of Languages, Literature, Culture, JNU. The participants, surprising number of participants, that is 533 from all over India and abroad. I will give a brief note for that. Participants are from Sri Lanka, from Poland, from Nagpur, from Assam, from West Bengal, from Tamil Nadu, from Haryana, Lucknow, Chandigarh, Bengaluru, from so many places. And 533 participants have been registered with us. And out of 533, we got 90 abstracts from them. Even one, I know the name of Sri Lankan participants, that is Gomesh. She belongs to the University of Ruhana, Sri Lanka. It shows the curiosity level of the participants and researchers, scholars for the proposed 2 days discussion on the countability of loss and gain to humanity by Corona-19. Friends,
5 minutes में और भी है.
Friends, I will also like to congratulate the organizing committee, that is one convener, Dr. Mahima Singh, and organizing secretary, Dr. Indrajit Mishra and his team, and the level of recognition of these two persons. You can imagine when I will show the other speakers to whom they could able to invite. That is one Professor Wu Huyang, School of Foreign Languages, Hubei, University of Arts and Science, Hubei, China. Professor Marta Silver Coeg, Department of English Studies, the Complutense University of Madrid, Spain. Professor Rahul Krishna Berola, Murdoch University, Australia. Professor Yining Ekandia, Montenegro. Professor of Spanish Languages, Center of University of Pacifico, Lima, Peru, Professor Patricia Austin, the Institute of English Studies, University of Rzeszów, Poland, and another resource person, Professor Kona Prakash Reddy from IFLU, Hyderabad, Professor Sushil Sharma, my friend, University of Allahabad, Dr. Nandini Soni from University of Delhi, Professor Ramaswamy Subramoni from Tamil Nadu, from Professor Anita Singh from BHU. So these kind of high profile person of literature and laureates and scholars to whom you all the participants are going to add with this 2 days communication and discussion on the on this cultural statistics of corona, the loss and gain to the humanity. Friends, in the entire world, no one is touched by the unleashed corona crisis of COVID-19 pandemic. This invisible problem everybody is facing due to this invisible problem. It is growing exponentially in all over the world. Its overall consequences are serious and lethal. We see on the television that in our country it is 50,000, and if again you wanted to see on television, after 3-4 days you would be able to see that it is 1 lakh. So it is exponential. That's why I told you that it is exponentially going larger and larger every day in the entire world. Undoubtedly, the current pandemic has brought a kind of rupture, as Professor Sudhir told that we should use it as rapture in the current civilization. For the current civilization, I'm also using rapture in the current civilization. This is not for the first time. If you review the human history, in past many instances of cultural break can be traced like epidemic, pandemic, war, famine, that has ruined the established socio-political and cultural growth and order. The arrival of corona is continuation of many such happenings of history. Being human, we are in habit of evaluating these breaks in terms of loss and gain, but nature has its own course of action. Literature always manifests happening of culture and time, and again literary artists have proven the invisible power of nature. I am a person of mathematics, so I will just try to count the loss and gain in the part of human life, which is never finalized, and that I got from the lecture of Professor K.M. Pandey sir, my friend. If I count the loss due to this corona, I must say that we got our entire society got, not we, the entire society got the lack of emotions by keeping social distancing. I just of the opinion that it is the loss in the emotional values in the society. First, we were not allowed to go to see the patients, whether it is our neighbor, it belongs to our neighbor, whether it belongs to our far distance relations. But now I am looking that if your father, your sister, your brother is being affected with this virus, you would also not be able to go to see him, to look after him in the hospitals. So by keeping this social distancing every day, I am of the opinion that we are keeping the distance in the heart, in the emotions with the persons to whom we belong much closer prior to this coronavirus. So It keeps a social emotional distancing in the society. And as Professor K. M. Pandey told, that we got some gain also from this, about cleaning of air, cleaning of water, pollution level. Yes, we could clean the nature's problem. Because of that, prior to Corona, the entire society got disturbances, so many disturbances, other kind of problems, health problems we had to face. And as in the organizing committee of this webinar, I personally feel that without investing a single penny, we could be able to address this kind of webinar, and we are able to connect so many people across the country, throughout the world, throughout the country. We are able to add them, as today we are adding so many persons from Chandigarh to Delhi to Varanasi to so many places. Friends, this world has recovered from a shock of 2 world wars and progressed by leaps and bounds. The journey to the moon and space is testimony of it. The scientists of the world started making human clones and using artificial intelligence as if they would become demigod. It seemed as if the world had reached the climax of progress, prosperity and power, but just a virus appeared and all the advanced weapons and materials progress failed to control it. Now we are bound to realize that we are just an ordinary human being. We have no power in reality. Whenever human beings think that they have become all powerful and can do whatever they wish to do, then nature is one or other form, brings ruptures or raptures, or our feelings, and like COVID-19, and limits our actions. Our example I would like to quote from Mahabharata, where Duryodhana was supported by the power of innumerable soldiers and with great warriors like Bhishma, Drona, Karna. He was mad and blind in his bite and did injustice to Pandavas. But when happened, ultimately he lost all the power and also his wife, also his life. We human things that might it always right, but time to time nature teaches us lesson to balance. Today's situation makes us realize the truth said in our Vedas, Purans and Bhagavad Gita, as our two Professor Sudhir Kumar and Professor K. M. Pandit told much about this and quoted so many shlokas of Bhagavad Gita and Purans, that this world is illusion and we all are caught in the web of Maya, unreality, that is unreality. Friends, the cultural break we are discussing here is expected to take place in the post-corona period, as it has been the history of humankind. The result will surface in the society. Politics, culture, and its impact in literature will be seen. But at the same time, the new values will also emerge, and there will be solution to all the problems which are disturbing us presently. It is my view, if we can recover from the calamities like Mahabharata, partition of India and Pakistan, famine, war, and then it is sure that we will overcome the loss of this pandemic. We should also follow the words of Krishna that utters what is happening and what will happen in future is not controllable by humans, by you, by us. However, human beings always go mad and think that I am most powerful. Though, as I assume that for the student and scholars of English, any epidemic is a matter of do something great like Shakespeare, like the in time of Shakespeare. The Shakespeare is an example whose whole career has been hunted by the Great Plague of London, and his every good item which he wrote at that time, it was at the time of Great Plague of London. His two longest poem, Venus and Adonis and the Rape of Lucrece, are the creation of such a period when theatres were closed due to epidemics. Even his famous dramas like Romeo and Juliet and King Lear are writing which reflect his obsession with plague and quarantine. He has quoted to be quarantined, that he had been quarantined, hence believe in God and hope for the best. When one culture receives shock, another simultaneously starts emerging. With the arrival of corona, changes are for sure, that is behavioral, social, and economic, but in between all the changes, formula of humanism should not be forgotten. I hope that all the participant attendees and other persons who are on the table of discussions, who are on the table to deliver his thoughts, his studies before all of you, you all would get something from these 2 days deliveries and 2 days discussion. Thanks to all. Thanks to organizers. And if I thank to organizers, I will quote 2% maximum, that is Dr. Mahima Singh and Dr. Indrajit Mishra. Thanks to all. Thanks to Professor K.M. Pandey. Thanks to Professor M.S. Pandey. I heard earlier that Professor M.S. Pandey also linked here.
Yes,
So
sir. He was
thanks
there.
to him also.
He was there on the screen.
Sir,
Now he
Martha Silvera
went.
has also joined
He
us.
left.
He
Who?
attended.
Oh, now he left.
Now he's left.
So still my regard to him
Sir,
also.
Martha Silvera has also joined us from Spain. She is here in the inaugural.
Okay. Hello to Professor Mata also. Okay. Okay. Is he here? Is she here?
Yes.
She's here.
She's here.
Okay.
Martha, can you listen to sir?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Professor Mata, my hello to you. Hello to you. Thank you. Thank you for coming and joining us. Thank you so much. So thanks to organizer also.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Indrajit Mishra to deliver vote of thanks.
Thank you, Mahima. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon to all of you. On behalf of the Department of English and organizing committee, I am given to propose the vote of thanks. So first of all, I would like to put on record my gratitude and my thankfulness to our chief guest, Professor Sudhir Kumar from Chandigarh. And again, I would like to put on record my thanks to Professor K.M. Pandey from Department of English, BHU, and my very deep sense of thankfulness and indebtedness to Professor Dhananjay Singh from JNU. They accepted our invitation, and on a very short notice they came here, and they in their deliberations they clarified and illumined the mind and heart of the people, all the participants. I would like to thank our principal sir, Dr. S.D. Singh, who has been always there with us and always encouraging. In fact, this webinar has been materialized only on account of him. He promoted and he just encouraged us for this, and we tried and we became successful in organizing this webinar, 2 days international webinar on corona stasis. And I would like to thank our secretary, Ajit Singh ji. His support is also very valuable. And I thank all the participants, all the colleagues from DAV College. And I would also like to thank the media managers, Pratap and Surjit Singh. I would like to thank the press people and technical team, especially Nazam and Pulkit. And lastly, I would like to thank all the people who are there in the organizing committee, the entire department, Anjali, Umesh, and Vandana, Sangeeta ma'am, Najmul, everyone. So all of you very much, I'm very much indebted to all of you, very much obliged to all of you. Once again, I thank all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. There is an announcement that we will be back at 1:30. So there is 20 minutes or 25 minutes break. So I
Yes.
request all the participants that to please join us at 1:30 p.m. Thank you.
And who would be there?
Sir,
At
we
that
all
time, who
will
would
be
be
there.
there to deliver his lecture, his or her lecture?
Sir, Professor Sushil Sharma sir will be there, and Professor
Dr.
Nidhi
Nidhi
Tiwari and Dr.
Yes.
Patricia from Poland.
Okay.
Three
Just
speakers are there.
you must announce the name of the speaker. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Okay.
So we will be joining at 1:30, and we'll be having Professor Sharma, Professor Nidhi Tiwari ma'am, and Professor Patricia Austin from Poland. Thank you all.
Okay.